A demonstration speech should present information in an orderly, helpful way. But this speech is disappointing. Look for ways in which the speaker could have done a better job.
Hey, how's everybody? Is everybody doing okay? All right, the title of my speech is How to Make Fresh Avocado Salsa. So I've got a list of ingredients here that you'll need. 2 ripe medium avocados, peeled, pitted, and diced. 1 large ripe tomato diced. 1/4 cup finely chopped red onion. 2 cloves of garlic minced. 2 tablespoons chopped fresh cilantro. Actually, I don't think I have that. I'm sorry, I forgot it. You need 2 tablespoons chopped fresh cilantro. Juice of 1 large lime. 1/2 teaspoon ground cumin. 1/2 teaspoon freshly ground black pepper. 1/2 teaspoon salt. So those are your ingredients. Okay, I'm going to show you how to cut this avocado here. All right, now put the rest of it in here, and didn't know it was going to take this long, so to save time, I already have this other one diced up. Just put that in there. Now I'll put the tomatoes in here. Add the tomatoes. Okay, now I'll add the red onions. You know what I just remembered? Actually, I was supposed to put the avocados in last. You're supposed to put it in last because the juices of everything will actually protect it from darkening. So I forgot to do that. So let's just pretend that I put the avocados in last. Okay, so here I've got some chopped red onion. Got a little bit of that in there. Now I'll add in lime. Just squeeze the juices all in here. Okay. Just want to get it all in here. Okay, now I got some seasonings. Got the garlic in here. It's pretty strong flavor, so watch out for it. And now got the cumin, salt, and the black pepper. Just dump that all in. Stir it up just a little bit. Get everything mixed together in there. And just mix it together and grab a bag of chips and you're ready to go. Sorry, I should have prepared it just a little better for it, but that's it. Any questions? Or?
A demonstration speech shows how to perform the steps in a process. In this speech, does the speaker give a clear explanation for each step?
Let's say that you were planning a party and you wanted to make an appetizer that your friends would really enjoy. But what if I were to tell you that I have a great recipe that consists entirely of 9 healthy ingredients, and it will taste so great that your friends will really love it. Now, if it's healthy, you're probably thinking that it'll probably taste like cardboard, and it'll be celery sticks or something not really good. Well, actually, the recipe I'm talking about is healthy for you, it will taste very delicious, your friends will love it, and it's also easy to make. Well, the recipe I'm talking about is fresh avocado salsa. Now, this recipe comes to us from the California Avocado Commission, but you don't have to worry about writing down this recipe because I'll give you a copy of it after I'm done with the speech. So, starting with our recipe, there are a bunch of ingredients that we need to get, and all these ingredients you should probably make sure that you get a few days ahead of time before you actually prepare your salsa. First ingredient I'll talk about will be 1 large tomato. Now, if you have access to a vine-ripened tomato, that would be your best bet, but since most of us don't have that, we'll probably have to rely on the supermarket. Now, supermarket tomatoes, they tend to be not quite ripe, so you'll probably bring them home and they'll be a little green. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to get it a few days in advance and store them in a dark, dry place at room temperature. Now, the most important thing I will tell you about the tomato is to never put it in the refrigerator. If you put the tomato in the refrigerator, it will actually get rid of all the flavor. Next ingredient will probably be the most important to this. 2 large avocados. Now, these avocados, you want to make sure that you get them about 3 days in advance. So that way, when you're ready to make the salsa, they'll come to their full creamy ripeness. And the way to make sure that they're ripe is if the avocado is not too hard but yet not too soft. So you want to give it just a little bit of a squeeze, and if it has a little bit of a give to it, that'll let you know that it's a ripe avocado. The next ingredient to talk about is 1 large lime. Now, a lime is very important because it has a real zesty flavor. You'll need the juice of this lime, and juice from a bottle or something, or even a lemon, it won't cut it. It has to be a lime because it just has a really good kick and a good zest to it. So the juice of 1 large lime. The next ingredient is 1 red onion. You want to make sure that it's a red onion and not a white one because it really has a special flavor to it, and it has a very special zest that you can't find with the other types of onions. I know a lot of people have trouble cutting into the onions because tears will come up a whole lot, and the way you can avoid that is 1 day before you actually make the salsa, you store the onion in the refrigerator, and that way when you're ready to make it, no tears will come up. It's a neat little trick. Some other ingredients that we need will be fresh cilantro. Now, this cilantro is very, very special to the recipe because it really adds a south of the border flavor to it. For the cilantro, we want to use 2 tablespoons freshly cut cilantro, which I have right here, already chopped up. Some other seasonings that you'll need will be garlic. You'll need 2 cloves of diced garlic, which I've already diced up here. You'll also need 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon freshly ground black pepper, and another 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. Well, now can we make this recipe yet? Not quite. We have to get to our equipment first. We'll need 1 large cutting board. We'll need a large mixing bowl that's large enough to put all your ingredients in, but nothing will spill out over the side. So 1 large mixing bowl. We'll also need 2 spoons. We'll need 1 large and 1 small. And lastly, we'll need a sharp cutting knife. And you want to make sure that the knife is sharp so that when you cut into the tomato, it actually won't crush it instead. All right, well, we're now close to the fun part, the actual mixing. So if it's avocado salsa, you would think that we would start with the avocados first, right? Well, no. Actually, if you start with the avocados, the minute you cut into it, the avocados will begin to brown. And so that's why you want to start with the other ingredients, because the juices and acids from the tomato and the lime will actually protect the avocados from darkening. So now we'll want to start dicing up our tomato. You want to cut up your tomato in half and then chop off the excess stem on the top. And your chunks of tomato that you want to get into the dish are 1/4 inch. So you're going to want to make these chunks relatively large so that you can see them and eat them at the same time. That's another important part for the tomatoes. You want to make sure that they're big enough so that you can see them with the avocado. The tomatoes and the avocado together, besides just going together well for taste, they also go really well together for sight too. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you use the whole tomato. You should never decide to just forget the tomato. It's a very important part of this dish. Also, besides going together visually and the taste, the tomato is just a large ingredient, because the other ingredients we won't put as much into it, and I'll get to that a little bit later. So, we're going to cut up our tomatoes in relatively large chunks, and when we're done, we'll just dump that all into the bowl. And when we're done chopping up the tomato, the next ingredient that we want to go to will be the red onion. We're going to want to chop up our red onion here. So the red onion, it'll be a little different from the tomato. We're going to want to take off just the outside layer of the onion just to get the freshest part as we can. Now hopefully you put it in the refrigerator so it won't tear your eyes up. But once you actually start to cut into the onion, we're going to want to cut it in smaller chunks than what we did for the tomato first. Now the reason for that is red onion is such a powerful flavor that you're not going to want to put too much into it. This recipe calls for about 1/4 cup of red onions, but that's actually subject to taste. Because it's such an overpowering flavor, you can just use basically your best judgment to the onion. So you want to try to finely chop the onion and mince it, I guess is a professional term, but definitely cut it into smaller chunks than the tomato. So once you cut into the onion, you can start to put it in there, and it really depends on your taste as far as the amount that you want to put in. I would suggest to always start just a little bit less than what you would normally want to, and then afterwards you can always add in a little more later. So take some of your finely chopped red onion and put it in there. There we go. All of our red onion that we want to put in. All right. Now, the next ingredient is 1 lime. Now, sometimes the lime, it's a little difficult to get the juice out of the lime, and that's why you may want to make sure that you roll it over a hard surface first. If you actually do that before you cut into the lime, it'll release some of the juices before you actually juice it, and it'll get them flowing a little bit better. So by rolling it, you can then release the juices a little bit better when you squeeze them into your bowl. Lime juice is very important to this dish. You'll really notice when you taste it. It just gives it the flavor of the lime. And like I said earlier, you really want to use the lime and not a canned lemon juice or any other thing. You really want a fresh lime. And you can definitely tell once you taste into this thing that you have a fresh lime, because the acidity in it, brings such a strong flavor. And also later on, it'll protect the avocado from getting dark. So, finally, cilantro. Now I already had the cilantro chopped up, so you can just add it into your dish. It's just 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped cilantro. And the cilantro, you'll only want to use the leafy part of the cilantro. You won't want to use the stem because all the flavor is actually in the leafy bit, so you don't have to worry about the stem. You can just discard it. Okay, the next ingredient that we can add for our salsa are the seasonings. Now, I mix the seasonings all together, but I'll just go over the amounts for you. It was 2 cloves freshly chopped garlic. You can add that in. Use a spoon. Just add in the 2 cloves of freshly chopped garlic into our mix. And then we can add in the seasonings. Now for the seasonings, we had one half teaspoon, actually. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. You can just add all those things in there together, and that should be pretty good for our seasonings. You may want to add in a little more salt later on to taste, but that should get you started really good. Now, all right, the next big ingredient we have, the avocados. The avocados are definitely the main feature of this dish, so you want to make sure that, that they're nice and fresh and ripe so that you can get them just right. So when you open it up, so with the avocado, you can very easily remove the pit, and then what you want to do to get the meat of the avocado out is just take a spoon and run it around the edge, and the whole bulk of the avocado, the part that you want at least, should pop out in one good piece. And that will also help so that when you cut the avocado, it'll be much, much easier to cut. So you've got the first half. Now we'll get the second half of the avocado. Now some people think that avocados are very, very high in fat, and that's actually true. The good thing is, though, avocados have a very good kind of fat for you. It's the kind of fat that lowers cholesterol. There we go. Avocados have monounsaturated fats, and it's a very good kind of fat because it lowers cholesterol, and it's actually healthy for you, in addition to tasting great. So as we chop up the avocados, we'll chop them up just like we did the tomatoes, about 1/4 inch chunks, and then we'll want to put them in very gently to dip it in there, because you won't really want to mush it out. You want to make sure that people get a good sized amount of avocado on their dish. So we'll chop it up nicely. Another health factor about the avocado is that it's actually high in potassium. And that's another very, very healthy, good health benefit of the avocado. So when you add your avocado and you already start saying that the avocado and the tomato, anyone asks as you're serving, you can say, yeah, it's actually healthy for many, many different ways. So we'll start cutting into our second avocado. Find the groove there. So take off the first one like so, and pit it again. And then do the spoon around. You can kind of get the hang of it after you start to do one. So there goes the first one. I'm getting the second one. So you'll definitely need more of the avocado than the other ingredients because it is the main feature of your dish. So again, chop it up just like the tomato, 1/4 inch slices. Now it's really, really easy, again I stress, to crush the avocado when you're cutting it. So that's another reason why it's good to have the sharp knife, because you want the avocado to maintain the consistency of the chunks. Later on, when everyone's dipping their chips into it, you want to make sure that everyone gets a good amount of avocado on their chip, as opposed to being just kind of a mix-mash mess. So chop it up here. Gets a little bit messy, but as long as you don't squash it, as long as you keep it in good-sized chunks, the recipe will be okay. So 1/4 inch chunks. And then put them in gently. That's another key. You want to put the avocados in gently because when you stir it up, you want to stir it gently too, just so that you make sure that all the ingredients are good, but not just a mix and mash together. Now that we have all of our ingredients in the bowl, it's time to mix it. You want to make sure that you stir all the ingredients gently, just so that you don't crush the avocado. It'll be nice if everyone gets a nice big chunk of avocado on their chip when you're ready. So, when all the ingredients are stirred together, you're ready to eat it. I like to serve this with blue corn chips. I just like the way they taste. Also, the color, I think, really goes well with this dish. You can serve this from 1 to 2 hours after you make it, and then after that, you can just store it in the refrigerator for later. Now let's go over all of the ingredients that we used. We used 2 ripe avocados, 1 large ripe tomato, 1/4 cup chopped red onion, garlic, cilantro, lime juice, cumin, black pepper, and salt. You don't have to worry about the exact amounts of all these. I'll hand out the recipe and you can check the exact amounts yourself. Is it tasty? Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. I invite you all to come up here and try some delicious, healthy, and easy to make fresh avocado salsa. In the meantime, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
In a demonstration speech, visual aids are a powerful way to enhance audience understanding. Does this speaker use visual aids effectively?
How would you feel if you went home this afternoon and found that a burglar had broken into your home and stolen your valuable possessions? Burglary is one of the most common crimes in our society today. The Federal Bureau of Investigation says that burglary will occur at some point in the lives of 95% of all Americans. Whether you live in a house, an apartment, or a dormitory, how can you safeguard your most valuable possessions? Today I want to show you that by following 3 simple steps, you can prevent your valuables from being stolen. Let's look at the first step. Determine the most obvious place where a burglar would look. Burglars usually don't want to spend much time in your home. They want to scoop up valuables and get away. So ask yourself, where would burglars look first? The 2 most popular places are under a mattress and in a bedside table or nightstand. Now it's time for the second step. In the obvious hiding places we have just talked about, put decoys. By decoys, I mean items that look much more valuable than they really are. What you are hoping is that the burglar will scoop up the decoys and leave. Here's an example of a drawer in a nightstand. This is one of the first places a burglar would look. He will see a camera that looks valuable, but really is a cheap throwaway, a few dollars, bills, some coins, and a bunch of jewelry. The jewelry looks valuable, but in reality, it's worthless. If you're lucky, the burglar will grab all these decoys and leave. But what if he doesn't leave? What if he continues to prowl through your home? This possibility leads us to the third step. Use ordinary-looking concealment places to hide your valuables. Use devices that are not likely to cause the burglar to look inside. Wayne Lennon of the Seattle Police Department, who is an expert on crime prevention, says you should disperse your valuables, hide them in many different places. Here are some examples of concealment places. You can take a tennis ball and cut a slit along one of the seams. If you squeeze the ball, an opening will appear, and you can insert items like earrings and money. After you quit squeezing, it will return to its normal appearance. Then you can place the ball among other tennis balls in your closet. This shelf looks ordinary with a lamp, a tissue box, and a bunch of pens. The tissue box makes a good hiding place. It's very easy. Take out all the tissues, place valuables at the bottom of the box, then put a thin layer of tissues on top. To the burglar, it will look like just an ordinary box of tissues. You can hide an expensive camera inside a kitty litter box. Just be sure to wrap the camera in plastic so that it will not be harmed by the kitty litter. Then push it down to the center of the box. But what about big items that you want to hide? I have a handout that you can pick out at the end of the hour. It gives instructions on how to build secret compartments. One of the ideas is very simple. Most homes have heating and air conditioning vents. You can create a hiding space in a wall and then cover it with a vent that looks exactly like the other vents in your home. Behind the vent, you can hide camcorders and laptop computers and other bulky items. So let's review our 3 steps. First, identify the most likely place where a burglar would look. Second, place decoys in those places. And third, hide the true valuables in places where a burglar is not likely to look. All these steps require a little bit of work, but if they safeguard our possessions, they are worth the effort.